All right. Well, welcome back to the Bits Matter podcast. Mac Erickson, welcome to the show.
Nate, thank you for welcoming me to the second Bits Matter podcast.
That's
Excited to
right.
be here.
Well, thank you very much. We're happy to have you, and you're here as a special guest because we have probably one of our more fun topics that we're talking about today, and it's about when we invite guests. In fact, some of our partners, prospects, guests, customers back here to Element to usually kick off a project or to start a secondary project. So you have had more folks than anybody in this company bringing guests here, and it's been going strong since you started with the company 7+ years ago. So thank you for that.
8+ years ago.
Well, I thought you were on probation the first year, so we.
Good point.
Yeah, we go.
Great point.
But before I'm going to let you do a formal intro. I want to kind of share some of the things we're going to be talking about and why we think it's so important. And when we bring guests back here, it's kind of 3 points we're looking to do usually, which is getting everybody under one roof so we hear very clearly what they are looking for as a customer, as a prospect, and making sure our team hears it, they hear it, we come together so we can kind of hit the ground running and deliver an excellent project. The second point is just the teamwork and the camaraderie between both organizations. As you know, whether it's a remodel or a ground up, there's a lot of moving parts, and we always want to make sure that they're comfortable with our team, we're comfortable with their team. It just opens up dialogue and kind of makes these projects run smoother. And the final point is the ability for us to always get better at practicing what we preach, which is how do we develop these unique and memorable moments, which are critical for our customer base, community banks, and the credit unions that are out there. It's critical for our customers, the community banks and credit unions, to really create those kind of moments. So it's important. So we're going to kind of jump into those points and talk about each one. But before we get started with that, I'd like to have you share a little bit about yourself, your background, where you came from, and what you're doing now with Element.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. As I mentioned, 8+ years at Element, but this is my 30th year in financial services. So I started my career here in Utah, where I live, with a credit union here locally that I oversaw their branch expansion initiatives for about 10 years, and then jumped over to the vendor side and worked with financial institutions, primarily the western corridor of the country, working with them on small footprint branches like in-store branches and small retail spaces. And met you and William at a conference many moons ago. I think you had probably just maybe started Element. Maybe it was a year or two old, and just became buddies with you guys. And I always look forward to seeing you at the next year's show, and stayed in contact. And like I said, 8 years ago, we worked together on me jumping over to this side of the table with Element. So
well, and we're glad you did. We're certainly thrilled to have you here. And
thank you.
And I think what's unique too is in our past lives with William and I, we used to have guests visit us at our prior company, but it was always kind of they came in once, we did a project, and we would certainly continue working with them, but they never came back to the office. And that has shifted now, and a lot of it's got with your help and with kind of the types of work we do. But I'd like to have you talk a little bit about, when we invite a prospect or a client here, I know we do some due diligence first. It's not, they just don't come out of the blue. So do you want to talk a little bit about kind of how that initially gets kicked off and how kind of the invite is even handled?
Yeah, when we're even just talking with a prospect or a future customer, we tee up this workshop or these sessions, if you will, out of the gate. So we're always talking about the opportunity that we get to come together and collaborate. And so they're hearing that, kind of first discussion. And that's just part of our process and something that we feel is extremely important. So we're always going to make that a priority to ensure that talk track is something that's out there out of the gate. But one of the things that is very important to us is what we do is basically what's called a discovery questionnaire. And we want to get information from all parts of the organization, whether it's marketing, whether it's retail, whether it's the executive team. We want to understand what their visions are for their branch initiatives, because sometimes there's some alignment. Sometimes there may be some different viewpoints that we want to understand and have a clear understanding when they come back that we're addressing all of those needs and and really start to help define what some of their criteria they want to be looking for as far as how they want their branches to come together. So it's something that's very important to us. So that discovery questionnaire is what we do. It's a very easy document. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 pages, but it really kind of covers a lot of ground from an ideation perspective to start to even pick out key words that certain individuals within those organizations hone to, that again, that helps us align their vision to what we can start to put pencil to paper on from a design perspective.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think you're right. That document, and it's morphed a bit over the 8 years plus that we've been here. But you think about it, if we don't get that document, again, it puts us kind of behind the 8 ball in helping them express their vision and deliver their brand. And sometimes, when you do these, the assumption is that they're all in alignment, that they all know what's going on, and come to find out, sometimes they're all over the board. We saw it since COVID. We had a client here 6-8 months ago. They hadn't been together as a one unit in about 4 years. So to be able to come here out of their element, so to speak, you pull them out of their busy day to day and get them in here for 2 or 3 day sessions talking about, and again, we can identify very quickly where the differences are or where they have some varying opinions. And that's really what kind of stirs the initial conversations when we get here with some of the work that we've done.
Yeah, for sure. And to that point, Nate, even pre-COVID, I remember a couple of sessions where we had some workshops where we had some folks in, and they had never really come to the table as all of the hands that have something to do with the branch experience for a customer or a prospective member. They had never been together to really talk through what their needs were as a group. They'd never done that before. It always just been done kind of like through other channels, like, email, or, hey, one person was kind of coordinating all of those efforts, but never they'd been together. And it was during that workshop, it was pretty exciting to see some of those, if you want to call it a silo, let's call it a silo, some of those break down and say, I didn't know that was important to you that way, right? My understanding was that it was a completely different shift. And I think we even had to play a little bit of umpire a little bit on some of those discussions.
Absolutely.
Like, I think time for a break here. Let's cool down. Right. But again, it's everyone. All of these organizations have folks that have different responsibilities, and so things are going to be different for them across the board, typically.
Yeah, and you'd rather have that happen here, right? Where when they come here, we're usually about half to 2/3 way through the schematic design phase. So we have physical stuff to show them. We can start talking about the space, the choreography. But again, better to have those conversations now than in 12 months down the road when the branch is built and someone's going, geez, why did we do X, Y, Z? It's not that way. And
100%.
I also think that in the last so many years, things have changed, right? Bankers have become much more savvy about the retail end of this business compared to 10 or more years ago. So I think because of that, there are more people involved. Marketing is deeply involved. Operations is involved. Back of house, heads of retail. We've done programs here where we've had 6-8 people in here, and some of them are their lead branch managers, which used to never be involved in these types of discussions. But the reality is, there's the ones that are working day to day in this space, and as much as we think we can design everything and we've got talented people, we're not the ones working space every day. It's there. So there's hopefully a great collaboration in trying to extract the vision that they have, push the creativity a little bit in the bounds, and kind of meet them somewhere between that in our work.
Yeah, I think you just nailed on a key word there, Nate, is collaboration, right?
Yeah.
And we want to foster that too, right? We want to ensure that we're hearing all of the voices, right? Those frontline folks that you mentioned, like lead managers, people that are out there, that's crucial, right? Because again, as part of that overall design, if we're not thinking about the choreography of the space, and at the end of the day, the execution of the space as part of the design day one, we're doing them a disservice. So that collaboration piece is one of the aspects that, again, we tee up out of the gate is, hey, we want to ensure that all the voices are being heard. one of the great things that we love about these interactions that we have, especially with the executive management and the leaderships from the organizations, our partnerships, is the ability for them to come in and talk with not only just us, sales or sales executives or the leadership of our organization, but it's also our frontline people, right? It's the people that are creative eyes and ears and voices of our organization. And the nice thing about that is that it seems like across the board, the target audience that financial institutions are after are the younger generation. And that's who these people are. These are the folks that are less than 10 years out of college and really making a mark on the scene about. It's nice to hear their perspective and their voice, not only from a creative perspective, but hey, here's what might be important to me if you are to ask them that question. So it's great to have that blending of folks that our partnerships are able to interact with within our organization. It's really again, one of the reasons why we want to have all the people that are involved in these project initiatives, they're at the table. They're hearing everything. So it's not just, Nate or myself or other individuals within the leadership, if you will, of the organization, but it's the folks that really have the creative eyes and ears and voices here at the table for Element.
We all come together, we talk, the entire group, right? From our architects, interior designers, graphic designers, digital designers, project managers, strategists. We hear it kind of right from the horse's mouth. So by the time they leave, there's nothing wishy-washy about it. You or I or someone else doesn't have to try to go down to Chris and digital and explain what they're trying to do. So the fact that they're able to come here and dedicate that time, one, it clarifies stuff, right? At the end of the day, we want to do as great a project as we can, make it seamless for them, easy for them. They open their doors and start doing very well, right? That's the ultimate goal. And if we can, bring them here, the other thing it helps us do is speed up the timeline. We've often said coming here for 2 days probably takes a month or so off of the entire design process. And I don't know if you would agree with that or pretty close, but it helps move that thing right along.
Oh, that's such a crucial piece of it as well, is the time we're able to just to save to be able. We have a design lab there in the office that
right.
We're able to go down and really just take deep dives into the branding of the space, really understand, from a palette perspective, what their vision is. Because again, back to that vision piece, right? I remember I had I think it was I was either football coach or high school baseball coach said, vision's two things. Vision can be clear or it can be cloudy, right? Both, but you can still see, right? So we want to ensure that as part of that process, their complete vision is crystal clear.
Yep.
And a lot of that is, from a marketing and branding perspective, we're able to the deep dives we're able to take in that are crucial for us because again, we're hearing it right from them, and then we're able to touch and feel and have emotions towards whether that's a new palette that we might be we've been asked to undertake, or how do we accentuate their existing palette, right? And we see that quite a bit as well as, hey, we love what we have, but man, we just need a little more pop. All right. So we're able to really kind of get our hands dirty, if you will, as it relates to that. But again, the output of that is, having that going back and forth, whether it's through, Teams calls or, hey, we're going to send you out a FedEx of a bunch of carpet samples, right? To have that all right there and to get everyone's buy-in and understand if there's objections or questions, we can address those. But to have that opportunity to do that and really just fully immerse ourselves. And again, we're asking them to get out of their element, right? Pun intended, of the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And we're asking them to jump into ours. And when we do that, we want to ensure them that, hey, they're in good hands, and we totally immerse ourselves in that process.
Yeah. And when they do get back home, that they felt this trip was worth it and then some, right? It was never like, it was okay. No, we got a lot done and it was great. And I'd love you to share the story, because when you talk about that collaboration and, when you tell the story, if you think, boy, if it didn't happen here, how many weeks would it take back and forth? And that was, and you can mention the client or not, but the big group that was here, we did schematic designs. We had some of it elevated, but we also built an old school model because of the number of people that were coming. And from that model and using it as like a playhouse, then putting it into the VR. So if you want to share a little bit about it, which all happened in the course of an overnight session.
Yeah, no, Bay Federal Credit Union. I'll drop the name drop there. No, it was great. And they had nine folks from the organization come back from a mixture of obviously executive management, front lines, marketing. But I think the closer we got to it, and as we started to refine that agenda and the talks and meetings we were having in preparation for that, for them to come for that workshop, I think we saw like, hey, there's some power in this, right? Because of all the people that are going to be coming. So back to your point, Nate. So we had just, it was a new customer of Elements. They were looking at a new retail space and again, not wanting to make a huge shift from some of the design elements that they had previously had, but they had a visit to one of our other partners over in Hawaii that they really liked some of the elements, again, pun intended, that they had implemented into their branch design and whatnot. So we were trying to blend a little bit of their existing to their new. And so one of the I think one of the funnest things we've ever done is, you're right, we made to scale, not full scale, but I think it was like a 1/32 scale. I can't remember the exact scale of that, but basically a dollhouse is what it ended up looking like of their space. But all of that, the dollhouse, all the components, the internal components were movable, right? So we had the opportunity to go and the team could sit around and at that dollhouse and really start to play with not only what the look and feel was, but again, going back to that key word, the execution. All right, here's how we're going to execute this, because they were going to be implementing and are going to be implementing some new technologies into their service model.
Right.
And so again, to start to walk the path of not only the staff, but their members and their prospective members as they walk through the door. So they were able to do all that. That choreography was done through a scaled dollhouse. It was, I don't think there was anything funner than that, is just watching that unfold.
Well, and if I remember right, we broke it out a day early because we were thinking that was going to be towards the second part of the day. But the first day we got moving, and there was a lot of good energy, a lot of great discussion. And again, with 9 people, you're worried that it's going to be all over the board. But they had a pretty clear vision, which was nice. But there were definitely some components that they didn't struggle with, but they had some different ideas about. So we decided we put the dollhouse on, which is basically half the size of a ping pong table. And they probably spent 2 hours around that dollhouse, moving parts and pieces, changing where the technology goes, entrances back to the storage area. And if I remember right, I don't remember her name. The lead was the manager, right? The branch manager, Nicole, she's the one that's got to work this every day. So it's easy for everybody else to say what they think, but she was the one that kind of led that charge to what ended up being kind of the final floor plan in the dollhouse. And then we all got to go out to dinner. Well, the rest of the team, you can finish the story there.
Yeah. No, and so a big part of this too is obviously we want to maximize our time, right, with our folks. And so after we had some kind of direction on where we were seeing this go, the design team kind of held back and stayed at the space. We took the group out to dinner, and in essence, they came up with basically a virtual reality rendition of that dollhouse and that design plan. So the next morning when they came in, they were truly walking the path, right? They were seeing all the sight lines. They were seeing exactly, when someone walked through the door, or how they would approach the member or prospective member when they walk through the door. So again, it's utilizing not only our in-house talent, which we have, I think, some of the best or the best, and the technologies we have to create a different experience that they've seen before. And so that was so valuable. And I think And I don't know of anyone that's ever walked away from one of our workshops like that and said like, I don't know, that was, that was a waste of time. No,
Yeah.
when we have the output of that was tremendous,
Yeah.
and boom, it was basically a snap of a finger when they walked away and went back to California
Yep.
after that workshop. We were miles ahead
Yeah.
of where we would have been of just trying to do that over Zoom calls or
Absolutely.
and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Well, and I know remember when we walked through on the virtual reality. So we're in their headsets, and the next morning, team had worked through part of the night. So we came back, and they weren't expecting that. So I think they were
No.
just expecting to see the dollhouse updated again. So one, it was a nice surprise for them. It was kind of that surprise and delight, right? They came in, but it also led to, and this is something we're doing more of now, which is they come in for these initial proto model designs, but then as you start talking through, you look at, we realize they can't remodel every branch. Of course, they can't do that. But they start looking at those little elements that they can see, geez, how do we take this back to our, 10 or 15 or 20 branches that eventually need some sort of an update. So it really helped out in kind of, setting that goal for the next, next wave of things that we do there. But, but again, those are the things that makes these, the first point is when they leave here, we as a company have great direction to make sure we deliver an awesome project for them and that they walk out of here confident that we can deliver that for them. That's the ultimate goal of these things. The second thing I mentioned, and we kind of blended into it, which is the camaraderie and the teamwork. And again, people like to work with people that they like or enjoy. Doesn't mean you got to hang out with them every night of every week, but when you're doing these complex projects and potentially multiples, it's nice to know the folks you're dealing with, their personality, and that you can literally pick up the phone and give them a call. We have channels and project managers and your account managers like yourself, but if they have to talk to George or Nicole or someone else in the team, they feel at home to do that, which is key, I think.
No, 100%. It's relationship building, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, people want to do business with they like and they trust, and this gives an opportunity for us to not only showcase our talents from a business side, but also kind of peel back the layers on who we are and who they are
Right.
personally, right?
Yeah.
So, I believe it was Ryan Hirata at Hawaii State. He's like, we work hard, but we play hard too
Yeah.
on these. And that's one of the things that, I love about it too, is we can let our guard down a little bit and go to a Red Sox game, or we can go, like you said, go have some great, Northeastern food, New England food. Sorry,
Right.
I should say it that way. But again, like we want to ensure that, this is a partnership
Mm-hmm.
that is built upon, relationships and trust, like I said before, and
Right.
that this is a great venue to be able to do that again, because we're asking them to kind of step away from where they're doing their dailies, right, their
Right.
daily work and whatnot, getting out of their element, and we feel that's just as crucial of a time spent together is to build that personal connection
Mm-hmm.
to our partnerships.
Yep, no doubt at all. And I think one of the things that, again, like for example, usually the first night we're here, if they're here for 2 or 3 nights, the first night we have a little company party right up here. And
Mhm.
so sometimes George Brown, he's a great musician. He'll play music and we'll bring in local food and, have some drinks or wine and just kind of catch up for a few hours. One day was the national championship football game. So we all had
Yeah.
jerseys on and made a fun night of that, which was
Yeah.
great. But I think the other thing that we've seen over the years is that we've had repeat visits. The client that is the furthest point from Element of anybody we've done business with is Hawaii State Federal Credit Union. And I think they've been here 4, maybe 5 times over
I
the
think it's
last
5.
5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the two things that proves to me is that one, we've developed a great partnership. It's a two-way street. And again, when we've done 7 or 8 projects, not everything is as smooth as you'd like, but you'll be able to work through those things and get the solution. But they have obviously seen that there's value to come here to work, toe to toe to start talking through some of the issues that may have. And, going back to the virtual reality, when we went from kind of designing and building out their 1,700, 2,000 square foot branches, and then shifting to in-store branches at sub 300 feet up to just under 400 feet, the ability to come here, literally build uh, a cheesy looking little model on the floor out of styrofoam and wood so they can see how far they can push their chair back, to then putting it into virtual reality. When you're talking 300 feet, you don't have a lot of room to spare. So you have to make sure that those things are on point before you put them out. And I think there's obviously the trust in both of ours to make those commitments back. And again, we've been over there plenty of times as well. So that's exciting to see. And it's to get the people in that are key to making these things happen are real important. So our team loves it, and we just had a local bank here from Boston in yesterday, and it was a great workshop. So we're excited to see where that goes, and I think that will work as well. But the last piece I want to talk about in all of this is our kind of passion to kind of create the unique and memorable moments. And there are things that we try to do, and we've gotten better over the years, that when guests come here, we want to practice what we preach, which is deliver an exceptional service, kind of surprise and delight them throughout, make sure our follow-ups are not only good and timely, but unique. And it's not for them to go back and kind of copy what we do or the things we give away, but just to understand and realize that, man, we can do this in this space. Financial services, most people don't think of their bank as being fun, or the expectations are a little low. So we think, how do we share how we do it so that they can go back and kind of have a vision for implementing some of the things back in their own environment.
Well, bits matter, right? Hence the name of this podcast. Absolutely. And our tagline and the mantra we try to live by as a company every day is every bit does matter, right? So, again, practicing what we preach. All right, what can we do to not only make them stand out, but when they come back to these workshops, give a little bit different experience and a little bit different take on what they expect? Because I know 99.9% of everyone that comes to these workshops walks away saying, I didn't expect to have that experience, or I didn't expect to do some gamification and win a Bose, set of Bose noise canceling headphones, or whatever the case may be. Right. Those are things that, again, creating those little moments that, absolutely, hopefully the intent and the other alternate purpose of this is, that's what's important to us. It should be important to you as well. And again, practicing what we preach that way, because we talk about, and you said it earlier, right? Financial services is in essence in the retail sector now, right? Yeah. And in the retail sector, it's a busy marketplace, right? Yep. So how are you going to separate yourselves in that busy marketplace, right? In my little town I live in, there's a financial institution on each side of the road, right across the street from each other. One's easier to get into than the other one, right? People will switch from that organization that's on the wrong side of the road just because it's easier access into that, right? So that's just a little thing, but again, people are now looking at it. It's not, hey, my grandma set me up a relationship here 30 years ago. It's all right, what are they doing for me? What's their presence look like online? What are the things that they're doing to separate themselves and create an experience that's tailored for me as a member or customer of their organization?
From Element's point of view, the point of perspective of kind of exceeding expectations, from the very beginning when we would invite people here, we always did some of the basic things, made sure we took care of them and got them to their hotel. We gave them some swag. We always had nice dinners and things like that, which were great. And but really, that was the starting point. And over the years, we've added additional things to that. So a lot of it is in the front end, right? We do a fairly nice, I would say, robust email program ahead of time, inviting them, letting know the schedule of what's going to happen over the 2 or 3 days. We let them know all of the menus of the restaurants that we're considering. Make sure that are there any dietary issues or concerns that we should be made aware of. Obviously, there's a lot of shellfish here in New England, so we want to make sure we're doing right by our customers there. And then sometimes when they get here, that's part of the gamification. We'll send them some codes, and they can see some of our digital signage experience and how that works. But certainly, again, there's other things we do here of making sure they have some food in their rooms when they come here, especially if it's late at night. We do a lot of stuff during the days, and then when they leave and go home, we'll usually ship whatever back for them. But then we supplement with more emails of all the material that was talked about here. So it's a blend of fun stuff, food, swag, but obviously good material that goes back and forth, and it helps level set the playing field of expectations when they're here and expectations when they're back home as to what we're going to do next. And sometimes you just need that point of difference to open up the discussion and have conversations. And the fact that they're coming here, they meet our team, and we have 2.5, 3 days of conversation. That alone to me is like the difference between a community bank and a credit union and the big banks is we have to be much better at conversations. We have to be conversation starters and give those people a reason to be doing business with us, because, the big banks are just a massive, massive competitor. They have their machine, but I don't think they can service like our customers can and have that kind of attention to detail.
I want to ensure that if I have a partner that I work with, if they have a question, even if it's not branch related, I'd love to be top of mind for that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that just goes back to relationship making, right? If I can't get you the answer or have the answer, I will find it for you, whatever that is. And I think that's where there's such an opportunity, like you said, within financial services, just to be more than just the order taker,
right?
And to truly, develop these relationships with folks.
Yeah. You truly become a trusted partner, which is what our customers want of their customer base, and it's what we want as well. To your point, if we don't have the answer solution, we'll find it for you and help you out along the way. So
I was thinking about, as we were preparing for this podcast, and one of the things too for me, just as a remote employee, is sometimes I get to come back there and not part of a workshop. And again, I feel like I'm having the same things we were talking about here. I get that same experience when I go back, right? So the ability to it's not just when clients are in house, right? That's not what we're about. Like I kind of feel like sometimes, hey, you know what? God, these guys they're really taking care of me, and man, they're thinking about everything, right? And so, I kind of get that experience every time I come back there, usually, a few times a year and whatnot, just even without clients. So, and again, one of the things that drew me to the company, almost 9 years ago, was that it was the relationships, and it was the personalities, and it was the culture that you and William established for the company. And I think that's one of the things that people just see, they see shining through us, is that culture that we have. That it's not something that's put on whatsoever. Right. This is just what we do. And I think we do it very well. So kudos, and we tip our hat to you and William for your vision of the organization to do this and make this such an important part of the process, because I don't know if other people do this and have the fun that we do and work as hard as we do to ensure that these not only these workshops, but these initiatives and these partnerships that we have and programs run as smooth as they can. So,
well, thank you, Mac. And I would agree in the sense that, employees are important, right? And we hear it from our customers, right? It's very hard to find great people and keep great people. And so, I think part of us doing that as an organization is, we've always talked about this. You can train people to do certain things, right? But you can't train them to be nice. You can't train them to be empathetic. You can't train them to kind of have, I think, the skill sets that when people come here and they see the camaraderie, you either have that or you don't. It's a little harder to learn. So I think if they're not in that mindset, they almost don't get to the table anyway. And the fact that we have great talent with it is wonderful. So, but thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, man.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Nate.
We appreciate you being on our second podcast here today. And as such, you're going to walk away with the Bits Matter. This is the black mug. Mark got the white one last weekend,
very nice.
But you got the new black mug. Holds all sorts of liquids there. And of course, we got you a Bits Matter podcast t-shirt, but I made sure to downsize it to a large from an extra large because you're running the half marathon. So congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's great, Nate. Thank you so much.
You got it. And thanks, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Brand new day, sing a song of celebration. to love just one more day. They were gonna find a chance to love just one more day. They were gonna find a chance to love just one more day.